Some calls change your day, others change your entire life, in under 60 seconds. I was folding laundry when the phone rang. Nothing dramatic, just an ordinary afternoon, the kind you forget until something unforgettable crashes into it. I answered, without thinking, smiling out of habit. And then I heard his voice, flat, rehearsed, hollow. "Amelia, I'm divorcing you, and I've sold the apartment," just like that. No warning, no emotion. And then he laughed. That dry, smug laugh I used to think was confidence. Now it sounded like betrayal with teeth. I didn't respond right away. My mouth went dry. My fingers went numb. I stared at the phone like it had betrayed me too. "You're joking," I said. He wasn't. He went on about how he needed a clean break, how Nicole made him feel alive again. I remember the exact words because they burned into my chest like hot iron. He thought I would stay stunned, speechless, powerless, but something deeper in me woke up that day. He talked like the apartment was his to sell, like I was just some leftover furniture he'd forgotten to toss out. I barely heard the rest of what he said, something about escrow, moving forward, hope you land on your feet. I was nothing to him, not even a person, just an inconvenience he thought he'd handled. And the way he chuckled at the end, it felt like he had already moved on while I was still trying to breathe. But here's the thing, that laugh, it didn't break me. It lit something up inside me, because this wasn't just divorce. This was betrayal wrapped in arrogance. This was a man who thought he was smarter than me, that I hadn't been paying attention, that I didn't know how things worked. What he didn't know was that I had already started putting certain pieces in motion months ago. I hung up without saying goodbye. I stared at the window, blinking back shock, rage, grief, all of it blending into one sharp electric awareness. He broke me first, long before this call, with his distance, his absences, his casual cruelty. But now he'd made a mistake, a legal one. And while he was celebrating with champagne, I was about to pull the ground out from under him. I called Chloe, my friend, my lawyer, my lifeline, told her everything, word for word. She didn't gasp. She didn't curse. She just said, "Send me the deed paperwork, now." I did. And when she called back 20 minutes later, her voice was calm, but I could feel the heat beneath it. "He can't sell what he doesn't own, Amelia. The apartment is in your name, solely." I blinked. My chest tightened, and slowly, smile crept across my face. She planned it all. Chloe had insisted on that detail during refinancing. Protect yourself, just in case. I never thought I'd need it, but now, it was the only thing keeping me from drowning. I sat down, took a deep breath, and realized he didn't just fail to destroy me, he might have just destroyed himself. The truth came out, and this time, it came with documents. That night, I poured a glass of wine, not to numb the pain, but to toast the silence, because my silence was my answer, and soon it would become my shield, my strategy, and my revenge. I didn't call him back. I didn't explain. I let him enjoy his little victory while it lasted, because the real call was about to come from my lawyer. He thought he'd outsmarted me, but forgot I'd already stopped playing by his rules. When Chloe confirmed the apartment was solely in my name, I felt the world tilt back into balance, just a little. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled, without shaking. Tyler thought he'd pulled off the perfect betrayal, vanish, announce divorce, sell the house. But what he didn't know, what he never even bothered to check, was that during our last refinancing, I was the only one on the deed. He signed the papers without reading them. Typical. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't even sneakiness. It was survival. Chloe had insisted on protecting me just in case, and I trusted her. "One signature can save your entire future," she'd said. At the time, I didn't see it. I just nodded, signed, and moved on. But now, that one line on that one piece of paper, it became my parachute, my weapon, my proof. She planned it all, and now it was saving me from collapse. I opened the file myself, just to see it with my own eyes. There it was, my name, mine alone. Not shared, not contested, legally untouchable. I laughed. For the first time since his call, I actually laughed. It wasn't revenge, yet. It was relief, because he broke me first, but I wasn't broken now. I was reinforced. I imagined Tyler sitting somewhere with Nicole, toasting their new life, thinking he'd won. Maybe they were laughing at me. Maybe he even showed her the real estate contract, thinking I'd be gone by morning. The thought used to make me sick. Now it made me smile, because he never saw it coming, that the apartment, the asset, the thing he thought he sold, never legally belonged to him in the first place. Chloe's voice was calm but sharp. "Here's what we do," she said. "We alert the buyer, we file a motion, we freeze the transaction. It'll take one phone call to show he committed fraud." Fraud, the word echoed in my chest. It felt so big, so final. I'd thought of him as cruel, selfish, manipulative, but never criminal, until now. And suddenly, the truth came out, clearer than ever. I emailed the buyer's agent that night, attached the deed, signed the letter from Chloe, included copies of everything. The reply came within an hour. We had no idea. We'll be halting the process immediately. Just like that, the sale was dead, and with it, the lie he'd built. Around it, he thought this would be clean, fast, painless for him. But now the cracks had started, and they were spreading. I didn't text him. I didn't warn him. My silence was my answer, and it was louder than any confrontation. I let him live in his fantasy a little longer, unaware that every step he took was digging his own hole deeper. Meanwhile, Chloe prepped our next move. She called it strategic containment. I called it poetic justice. For months, I'd felt like I was shrinking, disappearing under his control. But now, I was expanding again, reclaiming space, clarity, confidence. All because of one tiny detail he overlooked. I was nothing to him, just a name he thought he could erase with a signature. But that name, it was now stamped on every document standing between him and his so-called freedom. And as I stared at the deed one last time that night, I thought, this isn't just paperwork. This is the beginning of his unraveling. He played checkers. We were already deep into chess. The next morning, Chloe and I sat across from each other, laptops open, documents spread out between coffee mugs and quiet fury. She was all business, eyes sharp, hands steady, voice calm, but underneath, fire. He committed fraud, Amelia, she said plainly. This isn't just immoral, it's illegal, and we're not letting it slide. I nodded, my chest tightened, not from fear, but from the weight of truth finally taking its rightful seat at the table. The truth came out, and now we were building the case that would make it stick. She outlined everything with the precision of a surgeon. First, alert the real estate agent. Second, file a cease and desist with the title company. Third, notify the buyer with proof of sole ownership. And last, prepare to file formal charges. We move fast, she said, because speed is power when liars think they've gotten away with something. He thought I would stay frozen, paralyzed by the betrayal, but every minute he spent gloating. We were tightening the noose. We sent the documents to every involved party. The buyer was stunned, furious. Their legal team immediately backed out. The title company froze everything. Emails came in like waves. Questions, apologies, formal withdrawals. Tyler's grand scheme was unraveling in real time, and he didn't even know it yet. She planned it all, Chloe's legal instincts, my quiet documentation, and the paper trail we followed without hesitation. But that was only part one. You have the right to pursue damages, Chloe said. You can file for fraud, emotional distress, attempted financial abuse. I stared at her. I don't want his money, I said. I want the truth on paper. I want the world to know what he tried to do. She smiled. That's the power move, and we'll make it clean. Revenge wasn't the goal, but clarity, justice? Oh, absolutely. We gathered emails, texts, financial records. We printed and labeled everything. Chloe highlighted clauses, pulled legal codes, prepped affidavits. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I worked. Because I was nothing to him, just a pawn in his twisted idea of reinvention. But now, I was the one building the board, and he was out of moves. He'd always underestimated me, thought he was the only one capable of strategy, of manipulation, of winning. But he forgot I'd been watching, learning, waiting. I wasn't reacting. I was responding. And this time, I wasn't alone. I had a team. I had Chloe. I had the law. And most importantly, I had the truth. And so I showed him the proof. We set the court date. We filed the papers, we prepped every angle, and the whole time, Tyler was probably still living in his delusion, thinking he'd gotten away with it. I almost pitied him, almost. But then I remembered the call, the laugh, the way he tossed our life like trash, and suddenly, the pity evaporated. All that remained was focus. Chloe looked at me before we left the office. He's going to lose more than property, Amelia. He's going to lose his illusion of control. And I knew she was right, because the legal system was about to show him something I never had to say out loud. My silence was my answer, but now my signature would say the rest. He came to gloat. He left with nothing but silence and the sting of his own failure. I heard the knock before I saw him. Sharp, repetitive, entitled, like he still owned the door he used to slam behind him. I didn't rush. I finished my tea, set the cup down slowly, walked to the door with a calm I didn't recognize in myself. When I opened it, there he was, Tyler, looking smug, eyes lit with false confidence. So, ready to pack up? He asked. That smirk, it used to make me shrink. Not anymore. He thought I would stay silent, but I had other plans. I stepped aside, let him in, watched him scan the apartment like it was still his. He looked around like a king returning to his castle. Nicole and I are thinking of repainting, he said. Might tear down that ugly bookshelf too. I smiled. just a little. You're not repainting anything, Tyler, I said. You don't own this apartment. He blinked, confused, then annoyed. What are you talking about? I walked to the table, picked up the folder Chloe helped me prepare, and handed it to him. He flipped through the first few pages, slowly at first, then faster. His breathing shifted, his jaw clenched. What is this? He asked, even though he knew. It's the deed, I said. My name's the only one on it. Has been for a while. The sale? Fraudulent. The buyer pulled out. The title company froze everything. And you committed a crime. The truth came out, and I made sure every word landed. His face shifted through 5 emotions in 5 seconds. Denial, confusion, anger, panic, and finally silence. That silence? That was mine now. My silence was my answer for so long, and now it was a mirror reflecting his own collapse. He tossed the folder on the table like it burned. You tricked me, he snapped. I almost laughed. No, Tyler, you underestimated me. There's a difference. He started pacing, muttering to himself. This is ridiculous. This can't be legal. I folded my arms. It's very legal. Chloe made sure of it. Every document is airtight. You tried to sell something that wasn't yours. That's fraud. The only reason you're not in cuffs right now is because I haven't pressed charges. Yet. I saw the fear creep in. And that was the first honest expression I'd seen from him in months. He broke me first, left me questioning my sanity, my strength, my reality. But now, I was the one holding the facts, the law, the leverage. And for the first time, he had nothing to throw back at me. No insults, no manipulation, just breathless shock and the sting of his own arrogance unraveling around him. He tried to shift blame. Of course he did. You should have told me. I tilted my head. You should have read the papers you signed. You should have treated me like a partner. Instead, you treated me like a placeholder. I was nothing to him, just a stepping stone. And now that stone had turned to steel under his feet. I let him talk himself in circles until he ran out of excuses. Then I walked to the door and opened it. You can leave now, I said. He didn't move at first, just stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. Or maybe a woman reborn. Slowly, he stepped out. No parting words, no last jab, just silence, mine. And as I closed the door, I whispered to myself, that's what it looks like when the tables finally turn. He thought control meant power, until everyone he tried to control walked away. After the confrontation, Tyler went silent for about 2 days. Then came the flood. Texts, voicemails, emails laced with fake apologies and veiled threats. We can still settle this like adults. Don't make this ugly. You'll ruin both our lives if you keep pushing. I didn't respond, not once, because every word he sent confirmed exactly who he was, and I wasn't playing defense anymore. My silence was my answer, and it was slowly driving him mad. By day 4, he showed up again, uninvited. This time, the panic had set in. His hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled, eyes twitching. They're talking about charges, Amelia. Fraud. Do you know what that means for my career? I leaned against the doorway and said nothing. Just let him sweat. He wanted empathy from the same woman he tried to discard like a broken watch. But he broke me first, and now I was done pretending I owed him anything. He tried switching tactics. I was stressed. You never listened. Nicole just got me. I raised an eyebrow. Nicole got you to sell an apartment you didn't own? He blinked. I didn't know. Lie. He knew. And now the truth came out, whether he liked it or not. Every excuse he made dug the hole deeper, and I had no intention of throwing him a rope. It wasn't long before Nicole found out. Chloe said she might have been complicit, but not fully informed. Turns out Tyler had told her I was stalling the sale out of spite, that the apartment was his, that I was mentally unstable and manipulating the system. Classic projection. I was deceived, but so was she. And when she learned the truth, she showed up at his office and caused a scene big enough to hit 3 group chats and 2 HR reports. I didn't see it happen, but Chloe did. She slapped him, she told me, barely holding back a grin, stormed out, and left his name off the lease for the new place they were going to rent together. That was poetic, because he thought I would stay, broken, begging. Instead, he was the one begging, for a second chance, for silence, for damage control, none of which he was getting. He even tried turning my own friends against me, sent messages, filled with twisted half-truths. She's exaggerating, you don't know the whole story, but people had seen enough, heard enough, witnessed enough. And once she exposed him, nobody wanted to be associated with a man who tried to steal a home and rewrite history in the process. He lost clients. His name started circulating in hushed tones, especially among the ones who trusted him with real estate advice. Funny how fast people forget charming when your charm turns criminal. Chloe called it professional rot. I just called it revenge, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't need fire. Just truth and time. Eventually, the messages stopped. The visits ended. He faded. Not completely, but enough. Enough for the noise to die down and the path to clear, because she finally left. And unlike him, she wasn't coming back with regrets. And as for the man who once laughed while announcing my ruin, he wasn't laughing anymore. He was unraveling. He begged for forgiveness with the same mouth that once laughed while tearing my life apart. I waited until everything was ready. No emotion, no last-minute hesitation, just the papers, neatly clipped, clearly worded, final. Chloe and I reviewed them twice, triple-checked every clause. This wasn't just legal, this was symbolic. A clean line between the woman I used to be and the woman I had become. She planned it all, not to punish, but to protect her peace. And now it was time to close the last door. When I handed Tyler the envelope, he looked at it like it might bite him. "What's this?" he asked, already knowing. "Divorce," I said. "Signed, filed, it's done." His expression twisted, first confusion, then mock offense. "You're really doing this?" he asked, like I hadn't just spent months watching him dismantle everything we built. I was nothing to him until I became unavailable. He sat down, suddenly soft-spoken. "Can we just talk? Just for a second?" I didn't sit. I didn't blink. "No, Tyler, you had your seconds. You had years of them." He started reaching, grasping at old lines. "You were my best friend. We had good times." Nicole meant nothing, and I just listened, quietly, because every word he said only proved one thing. He thought I would stay, even after all of it. He even tried crying, said he was confused, pressured. "I didn't know how to handle you being so successful." That was the only honest thing he said. My growth threatened his ego. My ambition embarrassed his mediocrity. So he chose sabotage over support. And now, with nothing left to lose, he was trying to rewrite history. But the truth came out. And I wasn't rewriting anything. I slid the pen across the table. "Sign it." He hesitated. "Can't we fix this?" I met his eyes. "Steady. You broke it." And then tried to sell the pieces. That was the final nail. He knew it. I knew it. Chloe had the notary stamp ready. All he had to do was admit, in ink, that it was over. And for a man who once tried to erase me with a phone call, the silence that followed was almost satisfying. Eventually, he signed. Slowly, sloppily, like the pen weighed 100 pounds. I took the papers back, tucked them into the folder, and stood up. "You'll get the final notice by mail," I said. "Don't call, don't text. We're done here." And just like that, my silence was my answer, one last time. As I walked away, I didn't feel victory. I felt closure. It wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive, it was quiet, solid, grounded. He begged her to come back, but that version of me, the one who once would have said yes, she was long gone. And as I stepped out into the sunlight that day, divorce papers in hand, I realized I wasn't mourning anymore. I was free. He left thinking he'd taken everything, but all he really did was make space for me to come home to myself. The apartment felt different after everything, not haunted, just heavy. His things were gone, his scent erased, his presence nothing but a fading echo in the walls, but the energy still stained. I stood in the middle of the living room, barefoot, quiet, and realized this wasn't just a place. It was a blank page, and I was ready to rewrite everything. She finally left, not physically, but emotionally, and that's when the healing truly began. The first thing I did was paint, not because it needed it, but because I needed it. A deep, bold blue in the bedroom, soft white in the kitchen, golden touches where he used to say, "Too much." Every brushstroke felt like a reclaiming, a declaration. This space is mine now, and not just mine. Mine with joy, mine with warmth, mine without him hovering like a shadow over my light. I replaced the dining table we picked out together with one I found at a secondhand market. Worn, but charming. I swapped the couch, donated the bed, bought fresh sheets, new art, better light bulbs. And every time I moved something, I moved a little closer to myself. I was nothing to him, but to me. I was finally becoming someone worth fighting for. Friends came over with wine and stories and playlists. We laughed in the living room until the walls no longer echoed his name. They toasted to freedom, to closure, to me. And for once, I didn't downplay it. I let myself be celebrated, because he broke me first. But every smile, every sip, every song stitched something back together. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. A quiet email, a PDF. I opened it, stared for a moment, then hit download. That was it. No parade, no courtroom drama. Just a file confirming what I already knew in my bones. My silence was my answer, and now the system had caught up. Officially, legally, finally. I framed one thing. Not the decree, but the old photo I kept of me before him. The version of myself that still believed in magic, in risk, in potential. I hung it by the front door, not as a tribute to the past, but as a reminder of who I fought to become again. She planned it all, even if she didn't realize it at the time. Work took off. Focus returned. I felt light again, light but grounded. Chloe and I celebrated with dinner and the most expensive bottle of wine we could justify. "You're a force," she said. I smiled, not because I believed it completely, but because maybe I was starting to. And one night, sitting by the window with a glass of that same wine, I thought about everything he took, and everything I reclaimed. He lost a battle he thought he'd won before it even started. He never saw it coming, but neither did I. This peace, this clarity, this sense of coming home to myself. Because in the end, he sold off everything he thought mattered, and I kept the one thing that did. Me.